Okay, who do we love? Who do we love, Jamey, this week?
Chuba Hubbard, start of the week. I never would have thought that in a million years after week one and how bad the Panthers looked. He turned things around in week two, but clearly week three there was a big change, making Andy Dalton the starting quarterback. It looked like an actual offense, and he looked fantastic. And I think the thing that I was hoping for, which I'm still hopeful for Jonathan Brooks, is the role in the passing game. We saw that from Dave Canales in Tampa Bay, specifically with Rashad White. And Hubbard, 5 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, and now they're down Adam Thielen. So we've seen this Bengals defense right now. They definitely did better against the run from a running back perspective last week against the Commanders. Brian Robinson did score a touchdown, but he didn't exactly run very well. But week one, it was Ramondre Stevenson. Week two, it was Isaiah Pacheco. I think this is going to be a pretty significant week for Chuba Hubbard, and probably his last big week, because it sounds like Jonathan Brooks is coming back. So this is an opportunity, I think, for him to go out with a bang and maybe establish himself as a still big piece of this offense moving forward when Brooks does return.
Okay, I just got this email from Ethan. Starter sit. Ridley, just one. Ridley, Christian Kirk, Chuba Hubbard. So far, it's Chuba, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Or Tyreek Hill.
Chuba for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think I've got Tyreek projected for like a 1/10 of a fantasy point more in full PPR. So yeah, I think Chuba's probably safer.
All right, Chuba Hubbard against the Bengals. Heath, how about you? Who do you love this week?
Yeah, I'll go with the guy that I've got ranked right next to him. I haven't had Brian Robinson ranked as a top 20 running back yet this season, but Austin Eckler's out with a concussion. Robinson won't get 100% of the touches, but he should see a higher percentage in the game, I think, with the highest over-under on the slate against the Arizona Cardinals. Good matchup, lots of volume. Start Brian Robinson.
All right, and how about players to avoid? Heath, I know you want to go first.
Yeah, I really don't. But I always forget the how high do these. You know what? Jared Goff's at home, and we talked about this fantastic schedule that Jared Goff had to start the year, and how we were going to be able to start him for the first 2 months, and it's been miserable. And I don't want to start Jared Goff even at home.
Really? Okay. Jared Goff against Seattle on Monday. Who are you starting over him?
I am starting Baker Mayfield over him. I'm starting Sam Darnold over him. I'm starting Daniel Jones over him.
Oh my God, no.
Wow.
No. Oh, geez. Wow. I hope you're right. Yeah, for my sake tonight. But my goodness, Jared Goff versus Daniel Jones. Okay, Jamey, who are you avoiding?
I'll stick with the same theme. Avoid the guy that's facing Patrick Surtain. It's Garrett Wilson's turn. We've seen it so far this season. It was DK Metcalf. It was Mike Evans. It was George Pickens. I mean, the number one receiver against Denver has been erased, and Garrett Wilson gets his turn. So not a top 24 receiver. It was the same way for me with Mike Evans last week. I think we'll see Aaron Rodgers challenge him a little bit, but the production has been absolutely miserable for the guys that Surtain has had to face. So sit him if you can.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, obviously, if he struggles this week, we're probably going to say, buy low next week on Garrett Wilson. But if you're playing with savvy fantasy managers, maybe you buy low now and you just take the chance that there's a bad week and get this manager's like, all right, Wilson's going to struggle this week. I might as well get him off my team.
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't understand why he's been worse with Aaron Rodgers. Like, is he just playing slower and the volume's not as good, and so like his receiving yards per game's down.
He's faced tough players. He placed Gonzalez last week, who shadowed him. Who do you have week 2?
Yeah, but if I'm drafting a guy at the 1-2 turn,
Snead. Yeah, plays Snead. He got shadowed by Snead.
If I'm drafting a guy at the 1-2 turn, it's not supposed to, like, there's not supposed to be 7 different cornerbacks in the NFL that, well, the matchup's tough this week. I can't trust him.
He just after this week, he just will have happened to face 3 very good corner, like almost as bad of a schedule as you can get. So maybe we should talk about this as a starter sit. Who are the cornerbacks you avoid? Surtain for sure. I think Snead, based on last year and shadowing Garrett Wilson in week 2.
Well, I mean, that factors into Tyreek Hill. He did a great job against Tyreek Hill in the playoffs, right?
I don't remember that. Did he?
Yeah. Well, either he did or the weather did. One of the two.
Right.
Well,
I remember
and him throwing him to the ground. We all saw that. Tyreek just getting abused.
Right. So those are two of them. I mean, I know Jair Alexander just.
So who were the?
But no, not him.
I want to flip the question a different direction though. Who are the wide receivers that you don't care?
The top 5 guys. I mean,
so it stops before Garrett Wilson. Like,
yeah, I don't think he's done. Like, Dave brought this up last week with Mike Evans when we had this conversation. He's like, I'm not sitting Mike Evans against anybody. Basically, I don't want to speak for Dave, but that's I think the gist of it. And I think that's the case for most people. You don't really have a lot of, like, your team has to be pretty loaded to bench Garrett Wilson, to bench Mike Evans, to bench, DK Metcalf. George Pickens is a little bit different conversation, I think. But when you look at these guys, it's hard to sit them. You just got to hope, like we had, what was it, last year, 2 years ago. Metcalf has that big touchdown against Lattimore. When Lattimore falls down or he shoves him. I forget how it went. These guys are elite for a reason on the other side of the ball, and so, like, I'm not sitting Justin Jefferson this week because he's facing Alexander. There's no chance. No. But for what Wilson has done in his career, and certainly so far this season, I think it's justified, especially when we have 3 games worth of data of what he's done to some pretty elite talent already.
I mean, we could put Alexander in the maybes. Like, if he does shadow Jefferson and does a great job, then maybe we can reevaluate. Another guy I would reevaluate with would be Derek Stingley for the Texans.
Yep.
But the other great cornerbacks, like Sauce Gardner, he doesn't travel, so he's not going to shadow Cortland Sutton. Like, I don't think you care, but just thinking of the guys who actually travel, shadow receivers, and are great. Unfortunately, Garrett Wilson has had Snead already. We'll have Surtain this week. I don't know if I want to throw the word great on Christian Gonzalez, but I think he's pretty damn good. So I think his schedule has been just about as bad as you could get.
Right, but you mentioned Gonzalez, and that's a good call, because the Seahawks receivers both had huge games.
But not on him. Like, he actually, the next gen stats said that Metcalf did very little against Gonzalez. So yes, you're right. But
the point would be is it's usually never 100% shadow.
Correct. And Garrett Wilson's going to play in the slot. I mean, he plays in the slot almost 30% of the time. So he's going to not be, the Surtain doesn't usually follow into the slot. There will be snaps, or he is not on Pat Surtain. So yeah, Jamey, I mean, but you're still sitting him. Is he in the top 20?
Yeah, I mean, there's enough of a sample size of number 1 receiver versus this defense, so it's not just Surtain completely eliminating these guys, but the targets are down for all of them. The production is certainly down for all of them. And you've seen what these guys have done. Really, the only one that hasn't had a huge blow-up game aside from this Denver matchup has been Pickens, and we know the reason there. It's just volume.
Also, the Broncos and the Jets, they're playing. They have the 2 best pass rushes, highest pressure rates in football. So the Broncos' pass defense actually been pretty good. All right, so we're starting Chuba Hubbard and Brian Robinson. Jamey said Hubbard. Heath said Robinson. Heath said he wants to sit Jared Goff. Jamey wants to sit Garrett Wilson. I got to give a quick shout out. Heath, Roxanne from our Sunday morning show. She asked a lot of questions. Roxanne Kronk. I got this email from her husband.
Yeah, sing it. I mean, come on.
I did. That one's too hard. No, that's too hard. From her husband, Morgan. He said, can you give a shout out to my wife? And in the last 6 years, we, Roxanne and I, have beat cancer, survived a Category 5 hurricane, got engaged and married, bought our first house, and lots more while always listening to your show. When I was sick, the show really helped me take my mind off of things. We're daily listeners, and I was just wondering if you could give a shout out to my awesome wife on a show. And yes, shout out Roxanne. We'll see you on Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern at youtube.com/fantasyfootball today to answer start-sit questions. And I think they're getting ready to evacuate again if they haven't already done so. So they're in the path of the storm. So to Roxanne and Morgan, good luck to you. Thank you for watching.
Come on.
And Morgan's a firefighter, so shout out to both of them.
Yeah.
I mentioned our Sunday morning show. It's a great way to get your questions answered. So that's youtube.com/fantasyfootball today at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Me, Dave, and Heath, we're just answering your starter sit questions for basically 85 minutes or so up until kickoff. Jamey, you can see him on HQ on the CBS Sports app on Sunday mornings beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern.